Hello there ladies and gentlemen, gamer boys and girls, welcome back to the pod. April Fools just ended and we really hoped for a good bundle, not a joke on us. So let's see what the April bundle has in store for us.
If you're looking for an adventure game, you've got it. If you're looking for a visual novel, you've got it. If you're looking for a surreal, anthropomorphic setting, you've got that as well. Chicken Police, this noir detective story, was the biggest surprise to me this month, hands down. Not sure where the concept of animal-headed people comes from. If I had to hazard a guess, I'd say the dev team didn't want their faces in it, so they just replaced it with animals, but my guess is as good as yours. Nonetheless, it works great, fits the black and white art style, and further to that, it serves as a background for the animal puns, sprinkled throughout the game as comic relief to lighten the moody, gritty setting and story. What works even better, however, is the ridiculously high quality sound work, both the background jazz music that is high enough quality to just be listened to separate from playing the game, but even more so on the voice acting that could fool anyone into thinking they were watching a movie. It's not just presentation though, the story is intriguing and the amount of detail in there that you can extract is mind-blowing. Your main character will have hours worth of voice line to comment on other characters you come across, clues, but even random little meaningless items. These characters I've mentioned have distinct personalities, and even if some of them, maybe even most of them, fit into a well-known detective noir cliché, little snippets placed smartly into conversations entice you to want to read or hear more about them. As for the gameplay, expect a point-and-click type of interaction with locations where you'd interact for hours on end, occasionally broken up by a puzzle scene, a little more action-packed shooting scene, or an interrogation. Latter comes in the form of a minigame where you have to decide what questions you want to ask, and if you choose correctly, you'll get info out of the other part. If you didn't, you'll likely piss them off and probably make the game more difficult for yourself, as you might have just missed out on a key clue. Good news is, you can't go too wrong. Even if you miss everything up, you can restart the interrogation, hoping for a better outcome, and score. Truth be told, I'm not entirely sure if it matters at all that much. Personally, I didn't retry any of the interrogations I came across so far. We'll see if it comes back and bites me in the ass later on. Don't let the weird visuals fool you. Chicken Police Painted Red is one of, if not the top title of the month. Do yourself a favor and give it a shot.
A jumble of retro sci-fi futurism, paranoia and aesthetics of the economic boom years that Pandemic Studios combined together with an avalanche of sarcastic irony in Destroy All Humans. This game has released about 15 years ago and re-released in remaster form on our PCs and consoles. The protagonist entrusted to us in Control is Crypto-137, a sadistic and decidedly little tolerant member of the Furon, an alien race that reproduces by cloning but whose DNA is now in the process of decay due to excessive use. Fortunately on Earth there are still traces of pure Furon DNA inserted in our genetic sequence thousands of years ago, ready to be extracted. To succeed in its mission, Crypto-137 is equipped with a wide range of tools and skills. Starting with the round and metallic flying saucer, equipped with different versions of deadly weapons, in addition to the inevitable and indispensable tractor beam, an accessory that cannot miss on any self-respecting alien spacecraft. Each assignment consists of a series of primary objectives, alongside other optional ones, to be achieved in a fairly vast, open and explorable scenario. The destructive raids of Crypto-137, however, are never particularly satisfying. Whether on foot or in flight, all that is necessary to do is shoot madly and seek shelter to recharge your health. The exception to this formula is the stealth missions, which in turn are annoying to say the least. But the context in which the game is immersed is always fun and represents a real stimulus to go on with the adventure. In any case, so limited in duration that it does not get bored. To keep the holograph active, that allows camouflage, for example, it is necessary to continuously read the minds of humans nearby, minds that harbor vile or bizarre thoughts that offers lines of dialogue capable of snatching more than a smile. Often the secondary objectives are the interesting part of the missions, because they push to find hilarious solutions to perform otherwise trivial gestures. For example, drowning helpless humans by telepathically throwing them into a lake or detonating a kettle to eliminate scientists are certainly more exciting methods than the classical ones. However, with one laugh after another, you find yourself quite quickly at the half of the game, so it is quite short. All in all, pleasant and fun, like a summer B-movie accidentally crossed during the sweaty night zapping session. In short, play Destroy All Humans. It's like watching an old movie about aliens in an open-air cinema in the summer. Maybe the film is not the best, but the atmosphere and the context play a fundamental role in enjoying the atmosphere. Thus, the somewhat banal missions and certainly not inspired mechanics take a backseat in the face of an adventure that tears several laughs. Doesn't take itself seriously and does not require a month of vacation to be completed.
For all intents and purposes, Monster Sanctuary is Pokémon in a 2D platformer / Metroidvania Lite format with a somewhat deeper combat system. The forgettable story establishes a world in which monsters only attack if they grow up in the wilderness, otherwise, if raised by humans, they become loyal companions, happy to fight other monsters to death for us. Once you pick your starting companion, you set out to conquer the Novice Trainer's Trial that serves as a tutorial. Combat is turn-based, first your party of up to 3 monsters will act, then the opponent. Luckily, there's more to the fights than just spamming your attack moves. The elemental system promotes thinking about what move to use on which enemy, your available mana pool can limit what options you have, almost all monsters appear to have access to moves that would buff or debuff, sacrificing a turn of damage for future benefit, and some even come with healing or tanking abilities as well. This gets even deeper once you start leveling up your monsters and get access to their skill trees, giving you the option to find synergies within a single skill tree, but also between different monsters. For example, there's this cat fellow with a massive sword. The guy gets more powerful the more buffs you have on him. Seems natural to build a party around stacking more and more buffs on him so he can just blast motherfuckers left, right and center. Especially if you add to the equation the combo system. Long story short, the more moves you make per turn, the higher the damage your next action will do. And just to add a tiny bit more variety to the overall picture, you can also collect gear and food along the way, which can both be equipped / eaten by your monsters to gain further passive benefits. As you can see, there's a lot of interlinked little parts here working in tandem to create an enjoyable fighting system, which forms probably 2/3 of Monster Sanctuary, with the remaining third being exploration. The side-scrolling pixel world is packed full of encounters you can choose to take on, or you can just skip them if you don't get in contact with the packs. You can hunt treasure chests, some of them just innocently waiting for you out in the open, others you'll find hidden behind destructible or hard to reach terrain, by summoning a monster from your menagerie and using their unique abilities such as gliding and cracking walls. As mentioned, the story is forgettable, but other than that, I've had a jolly good time with Monster Sanctuary. If I can manage to find the time, I'll probably come back to it, and can absolutely recommend at least giving it a shot.
The universe of Ghostrunner is both technological and dystopian. The plot revolves around the Dharma Tower, a skyscraper of absolutely daunting proportions, since it houses 1 million people. A number that also corresponds to the entirety of the remaining human species, because the air outside has become totally unbreathable. On top of the Dharma Tower, two personalities clash. Mara, known as the Mistress of the Keys and carried by mechanical tentacles, and the Architect, an artificial intelligence that can only act from the cyber void, the local cyberspace. You play as a Ghostrunner, a cybernetic soldier charged by the Architect to eliminate Mara. The adventure begins at the very end of the skyscraper after a fall explained by the superb introductory cinematic, and you will have to fight your way to the upper sections reserved for the elite. The heart of the gameplay lies in the hero's cyber ninja abilities, which allow him to move in an extremely fluid way through an immersive first-person view. It has, for example, a grappling hook to cling to certain predefined points, or one of its greatest assets, being able to run on walls and jump from surface to surface. To energize the experience even more, we are entitled to a double duty dash. On the ground, it allows you to propel yourself forward in the usual way, but in the air it triggers a slowdown in time, which allows you to reposition yourself laterally before rushing into the targeted area. To top it off, the game never breaks the one-shot rule, which concerns both the hero and the enemies. The slightest blow received or given is fatal. If the Ghostrunner's weapon of choice is the katana, some enemies do not hesitate to use firearms. The game also manages to sufficiently renew the type of opponents so that we will never feel any repetitiveness. It is up to the player to constantly adapt to the given situation, whether in terms of the layout of the level, or the number, positioning and nature of the opponents. Die and retry at heart, Ghostrunner offers extremely frequent checkpoints that actually load instantly. As a result, you will never feel frustrated when you have to start a sequence again. Which is good, because sometimes you have to die 100 times before you can perfectly master a level and successfully perform a relentless choreography. The secret is to always stay on the move and make the best use of the hero's range of movements and his few special powers. A few rarer sequences are introduced as well in cyberspace that offer a completely different rhythm. In the virtual world, we are entitled to phases of more classic platforms as well as small puzzles. This allows you to take a break from the Parker-style action as well as to unlock more skills. All in all, this is a fun game. Ghostrunner for me captured the cyberpunk feel better than Cyberpunk 2077. The game offers us a relatively classic universe for the genre, which works perfectly well and which is expressed through very attractive, colorful visuals. Unless you are particularly allergic to the concept of die and retry, you can only be thrilled by the fluid parkour and these katana fights all in one shot.
Naruto to Boruto Shinobi Striker is a title that happens when you have absolutely no faith in your product. You could have named it Shinobi Striker, that would have already served it justice, but since you already knew the game is kinda poop, you had to add Naruto and Boruto in there just to pull the fans at least. As for what this ridiculously long title hides, well, it's a third-person multiplayer fighting game set in the Boruto universe. It offers the options to either play PvE missions, both solo and in teams, or you can go for the PvP part. As far as the missions go, they are outrageously boring. From my experience, you can just mash whatever button you feel like mashing and you'll still come out with an S rating, so I wouldn't recommend picking it up for that part. If you're intrigued to play a PvP fighter in the Naruto universe, I would probably still look for another title. While there's a beginner queue, it appears to be completely dead. A full hour of searching for a game around 8 PM yielded absolutely no results. This leads to having to queue for the quasi-ranked mode, where you can have fun against people with way more experience and, more importantly, more moves to build their character from. This is thanks to the game not having set moves. Instead, you would pick one of the 4 roles: melee or range damage dealer, support and disruptor. All 4 of these come with a baseline moveset, but you're expected to grind out new moves and then build your own shinobi with moves you like. Sounds good? Except fuck you for making me grind a game that I've already paid money for. Leave your free-to-play model out of it. Beyond that, to me, it felt as the blocking mechanism was completely poop. More often than not I would get hit once and then just die in a hit stun lock. Admittedly, there's every chance this happened only because I'm poop at this title, but I guess we'll never know since I won't spend a single more minute with it. If there was anything I liked about it, I guess that would be the animation of the different ninjutsus and genjutsus. They all pop, flash, they're colorful. They convey the idea of being a shinobi decently well. Other than that, if you're not overly excited to check out how Hinata's head would look on Tsunade's body, just don't bother with this title.
Killsquad is a title that is openly shows right from the first description on the Steam page as a mix between action RPG, hack and slash, twin stick shooter and co-op action, all in a heavy source of loot, skill and upgrades. The basic idea is to offer the player a setting in which they have 5 different non-human bounty hunters, each with specific characteristics and specialties. Here we start immediately with the discussion on weapons and skills, since each of the 5 characters is an archetype that can only use one type of weapon that has a specific skill tree. Which means, the grind is on, baby! The game proceeds on tracks very similar to Destiny, with the vector score that dictates the difficulty of the areas by comparing them to the score of your weapons. This is further exacerbated by the fact that in case you want to advance other characters or upgrade other weapons, it is necessary to proceed on the same contract missions, which are not randomized and therefore the thing can be rather repetitive. Now moving on the side of the actual action, Killsquad offers a progression to missions, called contracts, tied together by a rather subtle but functional narrative. And it is quite clear from the start that this is not the focus of the title. The missions are separated according to the difficulty and enjoy a certain variety. In addition to the basic type in which you must reach and eliminate the final boss, there are also convoy protections and even some small riddles that constitute an interesting change of pace. It should also be remembered that the missions last from 10 to 20 minutes, and this helps the gameplay and guarantees a satisfying and enjoyable game loop even in short sessions. Killsquad is completely playable and enjoyable in single player, but it reaches its maximum potential in cooperative mode up to 4 players at the same time. Unfortunately, at the moment the player base is not as large as one would hope. It is quite rare to see more than 1000 players online, and this means it is much better if you bring your friends from home. As I could never populate even one match, and it was hard to find even one person to play with. On the control side, Killsquad is a joy to play. If you have a gamepad, the twin stick system is perfect, but if not, the keyboard and mouse work just as well. The game moves with a very laudable fluidity and cleanliness, especially considering the indie nature of the project. Ultimately, Killsquad is a title that mixes different mechanics and does it in a quite enjoyable way, but with limited depth and without particularly creative ideas on the side of production values. It is a game that can be fun in company, and it is very easy to learn, but you have to approach with a limited set of expectations and also prepare for a good amount of grinding for different armors and currencies.
Rogue Heroes, Ruins of Tasos is almost exactly what you'd expect looking at the cover. Pixel art? Check. Top-down arena battles? Check. Traps? Check. Secret rooms and treasures? Check. Progression mid and between runs? Check. I mean, what else would you expect from a game that literally has Rogue in the title? Is it any good though? Well, it's okay. Story is about an island overrun by these titans. Luckily, they were trapped and sealed away by 4 goddesses. As time has passed, they start to regain their power, and it's up to us to bash them back down. About as memorable and interesting as it sounds. As for gameplay, majority of it will take place in these dungeons, which you explore room by room and attempt to reach the end to battle the big bads. Most rooms will host monsters you'll have to slash through that you can achieve via your base moveset of attacking and blocking, though you'll have to keep an eye on your limited stamina. Alternatively, you can use magic, bombs or throwable items, and you'll be rewarded currency and other drops for your trouble. One of the 2 main types of currencies you can spend on permanent passive progression, such as increased damage, attack speed and so on, or on unlocking new items or character classes. However, any you don't spend before entering your next run will be lost. The other currency type stays with you and can be spent mid-run to buy consumables or unlock chests. To be honest, both the combat and the rewards are kind of dull. On the other hand, I enjoyed how most of the rooms have at least a minor puzzle element to them, often just a matter of lighting braziers fast enough to spawn a hidden chest, but other times finding hidden switches or even more elaborate ones. It feels as if there was a lot of care and effort put into the different rooms, not just your usual random squares filled with random spawns one after another. Unfortunately, it doesn't really work here. The fun part of puzzles is figuring them out, it's not executing them again and again once you know what to do. Makes me wonder whether this game was even intended to be a roguelike title, or they just ran out of passion, resources, or for some other reason, and an originally Zelda-esque project ended up becoming this strange roguelike title. I personally wish it didn't. Don't get me wrong, Rogue Heroes isn't a bad game. The only real annoyance I experienced playing it was the constant pop-up of meaningless stupid achievements being tracked, such as walk 23 million pixels, kill 500 skeletons, find 100 chests and so on. Even popping them up once you unlock an achievement can be annoying. Surely you didn't have to introduce popping them up as you progress. That is, unless you wanted to use it as a psychological tool to nudge the player to keep going just a little longer. Either way, long story short, Rogue Heroes is a perfectly serviceable roguelike title. If you've been thirsting for any such, don't hesitate to give it a try. Just don't expect anything about it to rock your world.
Do you like politics? Do you want to try yourself in the shoes of a president or dictator? Well, this game might be for you. Suzerain puts you in the role of a president of Swordland, a republic from the 1950s. You have two superpowers competing, you have communism, fascism, states that gravitate towards this or that, economic and political systems, and in the middle of is your Swordland. The republic, which has gone through a period of coups, has a rigid constitution, almost worships former colonel and president Sol, and you will determine its future direction. Suzerain is basically no different from the Democracy series or any political simulator type games. What puts it above the competition of similar textual acts are the really wide possibilities of manipulation with various political subjects and the fact that there is practically no typical and completely unrealistic gauges of popularity. Forget quantifying everything that happens to you. Will you upset someone during the interview? Maybe it will work out for you, maybe not. You will not see that you have lost influence in large corporations, but then those who fall into their sphere of influence will try to render you unable to act. Will you go too far in negotiating with a representative of the nationalist part of your own party? Maybe you will prove your authority and they will admit that you are right, or you will have a coup. There are tens of thousands of decisions on your way. Some are small, purely roleplay, others are key for further branching. The game has 9 final endings according to the devs, though I think a few people will enjoy playing Suzerain 9 times, but 4 to 5 will have this political strategy in it. It's simply an absolutely great game, provided of course that politics is not foreign to you. Don't expect any simple shuffling of the points of influence. If you are concerned how increasing migration can help local prosperity and conversely harm it, or you have no idea how the state and market-driven economies differ, you will float here. Of course the game tries to help you, but since there are no real names of states, you will be very involved in who's who for the first hour. Thanks to the developers, they have at least implemented a successful database that explains everything to the player. Suzerain is an excellent political strategy with a huge amount of text, and when I say huge, I mean it. There are several important decisions ahead of you that will determine how the Republic of Swordland and you, its president, turn out. I tremendously enjoyed this one, and I can but suggest this.
Another month, another 8 games, another escape pod look at how they play. Admittedly, a tad later than usual, but I was away on a business trip, so all the blame lies with me there. While Ghostrunner, or the remake of the console classic Destroy All Humans, isn't anything to laugh about, as far as leading titles go, admittedly, if you compare it to the names we saw in the first quarter, Mass Effect, Desperados, Mafia, we might be somewhat below the strong start in this aspect. Breaking down the bundle itself, however, there's quite a bit to be happy about. Ghostrunner delivers on the expectations, but there's also Suzerain, Chicken Police and Monster Sanctuary up there, and considering the variety of genres here, it's safe to say there should be something for almost everyone this month. There's nothing especially bad about Destroy All Humans, Killsquad or Rogue Heroes, they're just not on the level of previous titles. And last but also least, we have the curious case of Shinobi Striker. It's pretty damn shit. The singular reason I'm not throwing it into the disaster category, just as I did with Nickelodeon Fuckstars last month, is that there's actually a few thousand people worth of player base that seem to be frequenting this anti-gem, so at least if you want to feel the pain, you'll have an opportunity to do so. With a total score of 19 out of the maximum 24 and a monthly performance of 79%, April 22 lands itself on top of the year so far, good news for all of us. As always, we'd be very grateful if you please the machine gods by liking our video. If you'd like to come along for next month, don't hesitate to subscribe. Any and all recommendations are welcome in the comment section, and we'll see you again next month.